So, good afternoon, everyone. Today's session is a bit on the basics uh, of JavaScript. Basically, when we are writing our JavaScript code, right, it becomes important for us to understand why certain things which are there in modern JavaScript, why we are still ignoring that. We should be taking that into our coding lines, like. So, not wasting enough time. So the topic for today is deeper understanding of array and object methods in JavaScript. We do use a lot of methods. We create our own code, but sometimes there are some inbuilt methods which JavaScript provides, which really makes our life easy. So we will look into them. This would mostly be a coding session. I will do a live code of all the methods that I'll show. So we'll see uh, how each of the methods work, and a bit of uh, in-depth review into each of the methods. So yeah, just two things over here: array methods and object methods. Majorly, we will be covering the array methods because that's where we see a lot of things happen when we need to uh, work in JavaScript. Again, object methods is something where we have certain amount of methods which JavaScript provides, uh, which can be operated on any kind of object. Of course, we define methods on the objects whenever we are creating any object, but those are custom methods that we are creating. We will be talking about the native methods which are available from JavaScript. So, as I said, JavaScript provides several built-in methods for array manipulation. These methods help in transforming, accessing, and processing arrays efficiently. So, the keyword over here is efficiently, because we may write our own code for doing all kind of manipulations, but the thing is, we need the code to be efficient. Although looping through the array most of the time is enough to work with arrays, but there are some complex operations where array methods drastically reduce the amount of code to it. Again, uh, another advantage of array methods. We don't need to write a lot of code. It will do it for us. So I will go through the methods right now. So I'll quickly look into the categorization only. The individual methods, we will look into the code. We have these description in the code itself. So I'll move through this quickly. So the first categorization that I have done is single element addition removal operations. So basically, whatever is you see over here, push, pop, shift, unshift, these help in uh, adding or removing one element from there, either from the beginning or from the end, or to the beginning or to the end. So yeah, we have all those four combinations available. Then we have multiple element addition removal operations. This is a place where I see a lot of confusion going on. Where do we use splice? Where do we use slice? So yeah, we will dwell into it. Again, these methods are like multiple elements you can put in. And so yeah, that's how this works. Next is search operations. Basically, we want to see if the array satisfies something, or if we want to get uh, what do you say, a part of that array, or we want to find just one element in the array, or like we just want to check if anything is there in the array, or if element everything, like all the conditions are getting passed there. So yeah, all this methods that you see, filter, find index, sum, every, these are very useful when we need to search through it. Transformation operations. Again, there is a certain shape to the array. Maybe it's just one numbers over there. Maybe there are objects. Okay, so maybe using some of the transformation operations over here, you can uh, change its form from one way to another, or you can do some sort of operations which can change the order or reverse it, like whatever the requirement is. So again, map, reduce, sort, reverse. These are the four transformation operations that you will see in detail. And the simple one, the most simple one for each, uh, this is something which is used a lot of times. But again, there are cases where people struggle uh, in its usage when it comes to returning of values. So we'll look through that. And the last one is the for. Again, this is not a method that we are talking about, but as we are talking about arrays, right? It's imperative that we know this operation, because most of the times we fall back to the simple for loop in arrays, but this is a much better way to iterate through the array. So let's get into each of the methods now. Basically, what I have over here is a list of cars, and I have given them uh, some properties. So it's a list of objects, as you can see. So each object has make, model, year, fuel type, transmission, engine, CC, seating capacity, mileage, and it's available. And that, what I am doing is I am showing that on the screen over here in the form of cards, so that we will see when each method is getting operated on the array, what what is the visual effect, or what exactly happens to the array. We can see that in the real time. Right. So I have created a utility function so that you can see what's happening with the nothing much to see over there, but yeah, that will help us to see what's there. So let me now unshow the cars right now. And for that, let's go through what we have over here. We have the Maruti Suzuki Swift, Creta, Nissan, Seltos, and so. So just if you see over here, there is Honda City, which is at the last. And we have this method called push. So what it does is it pushes an element at the end of the array. Simple enough. So I have one car which is available over there. I'll just copy that and push that. So that's the array, and I'm just pushing the same object as it is. So there is also a descriptive way of doing it, where I create a new car, something like this, and then push it over here inside this. So I have pushed it, but as you can see, still the last one is the Honda City. So where is the new car that is getting pushed? So what I need to do is I need to again show the cars. So yeah, now we have the new car that is coming over here. Simple enough. So what we are seeing over here is the same array in which we pushed. That is the same array that we are seeing over here, which is getting modified. So push is a method which mutates the array. Okay. And that is important to know, because sometimes we don't want to mutate the original array. Maybe we want to have a new array. So it's that's an imperative to know what push does. If we want to have a new array, then we need to first clone the original array and then push into that new array. Right? So that's one way of doing it. Again, there is something that I want to show over here. This is just not pushing a new car into the array. If we do a console log of this operation, so you see we have a number 7 coming in over here. So what exactly is this number 7? So if we count from the start, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So basically it states what is the index or what is the length of the array that that is the new length of the array when we have pushed a new element to the array. So this sometimes is useful when we want to get the length after adding some new element in the array. So instead of doing array.length after pushing it, we already get the value once we push it. So that is something which is useful when we are pushing a new element to the array. Moving on, pop, which is again uh, same thing but in the opposite direction. So what it does is it removes an element but from the end of the array. Okay, so right now we have this Toyota car over here. What I will do is I will pop that Toyota car from the end. So let me pop that first. Okay. So instead of the Toyota car, we see that another car has been also removed because if we see over here, there are just 5 items left instead of 6. So what happened? The thing that happened is the new car that we had added, we have removed that code. The push code has been done. So let me remove this new car altogether. Let me show you how initially it looked like. So initially we had this Honda City over here, but once we have popped it, that Honda City car is popped. Again, let's see if we get something when we are doing a pop. Okay, so we are just seeing in the console what does the pop do. So here we see the car that is removed, right? The Honda City car that we just saw. That has been removed from the array, and that's what is given when we like it is returned when the pop method is called on the array. So again, this becomes important when we are removing some element from the end of an array, and we want that element maybe to be used in some other case. So this way we are not losing that element. We get that. All right, moving on. Same thing is shift, but what shift does is it removes from the beginning of the array. So again, let's have the original array right now. So we have the original array, all 6 of them over here. But when we shift, so you see Marcus is that is something we are expecting to go away. So as you can see, the first one has been removed. Same case with console log. If we see what is getting removed from the array, that is something which is getting returned when we are using shift. So if I see that object we are getting available whenever we are removing it. So that's what is getting returned when shift is. Okay. Moving on. Unshift, again, this is same as pop. Won't go into detail. Only thing it does is it removes from the beginning instead of the end. So, sorry, it adds at the beginning instead of me add the same that we have. So as you can see, Maruti Suzuki is not the first car that was we have the that's coming on the top, and we have 7 cars which are over. Okay, simple enough. Again, this is it returns the length of the array. That's how this works. Moving on to an interesting thing over here, splice. So what exactly is the splice do? Splice is something that changes the content of an array by removing or replacing the elements. Okay. Splice has a slightly, bit of complex syntax. I will show you how exactly it works. So as you can see, we have 3 things over here. So the first one is, from where do we start? The index of the array from where we start. Second is the number of items that we want to delete. And third is the item that we want to add, the items that we want to add. Okay, so let's say I just want to delete, let's say, last 3 items. So what I'll do is last 3 items. So I will begin with 3. I will say 3. I don't want to add it. I will say show cards. So as you can see, we had 6 items, but it started from the 3rd index, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and from there it removed 3 items. So here we are remaining with the 3 items that we are seeing over. To make it much more specific, I will add our Toyota car over there. So as you can see, after the 3rd index, we are getting a Toyota car. But what if I had removed it from the 0th index? Okay, so first let's see whatever the cars are available. And so these are the cars. Okay, so in so what I want to do is I want to remove the first 3 cars that you see over there, and I want to replace it with a new car, just the one car before Mahindra Thar. Okay, so how does that work? The beginning point would be the 0th index. How many items that we want to delete? That would be 3, 1, 2, 3. And what is the item that we want to put in at the place we are removing the items? So let me do this. Let me see what are the cars removed. So as you can see, for Mahindra Thar, we have the new car. The 3 cars which were there before them are gone. So this way, splice works, which is a really useful way to manipulate the arrays. Again, splice is something which manipulates the original array, and whatever things we need to do, right? If we need to make sure that we know we are manipulating the original array. Again, this returns the elements which have been removed. If you are not removing any element, then it doesn't return anything, just returns undefined. But let's say in this case, we are removing the 3 elements, right? So just put it over here. So as you can see, the 3 elements of Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, Creta, and Tata Nexon, they have been removed, and we just have the other values coming in over here in the original array. So those 3 elements are available for us to work with if we need them. Okay, so this is how splice works. Moving on, the better version of it, not better, but a version which doesn't uh, make the original array, like it doesn't mutate the original array. So let me do. So what I'm doing over here is I will put 10. So slice takes in two parameters. One is the beginning, and the another is the end. Like what is the uh, subset of the array that we want. This is similar to substring in string, but yeah, this is defined for the array, and it doesn't, uh, you know, make the original array suffer or get mutated. So let's say I just want 0 from 0. I want 2 items. Okay. So what we are seeing over here is we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items over here. So what happened? So it is not mutating the original array. That's what the purpose was. So where are we getting that? We are getting it in a separate array, which we can assign it to a new array. And if we see that array, so yeah, so the first two elements, the first two cars, that's what we get over. Okay, so this is how slice works. So these were the manipulation methods that we saw for the array. This, yeah, the elements that needs to be removed or needs to be, manipulated from a position, like or from an index. So these are how they work. Now comes the search methods. Like we need to find some elements and do something about them. So the first thing is filter. So what does filter do? Filter creates a new array with all elements that pass a test. So what is that test? So basically, here we need to put in a condition on the array, defining what exactly we want. Okay. So Indian class is the array. And how does the function work? We will put in a function which returns either a true value or a false value. If it returns a true value, that means that element will be retained in the filter. But if the element gives a false value, then that won't be retained in the filter. Just to give you an example. Okay, so we have all the cars over here. I want all the cars which are available. Basically, these we need to make sure like whatever the cars which are available, those are only shown. So how can we do that? So we need to pass in a function. That function will take in car the individual element as the parameter. So in that case, we will name the element as car because it's a list of cars. And then if we see over here, we have something called as available key. And that available key, we need to check like when it is true, then only that element gets filtered out. And that is what is shown over here. Okay, so I will say car dot. Okay, now this over here because filter doesn't manipulate the original array. It creates a copy of the array and removes whatever is not. Okay. So what I'll do is I will put it over here. So this is what we will get in the filters. I will save this. So if you will see, we only have available yes, 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 yes. So only the cars which are available are the cars which are listed over here. Again, this is not quite intuitive when it comes to a function. Let me give a proper function. So here I will not give it as available. What I'll do is I want to show cars which are, which are petrol engine. Okay, so what I'll do is I will say car fuel type is equal to. Okay, so as this is a function and it has to return a Boolean value, right? So that's why we are giving a Boolean over here. So, sorry, a return keyword over here. Why we didn't provide the return keyword previously, I'll explain that. So if you see over here, we are just getting the petrol, fuel type petrol value passed. So why is return required over here? It is required because we are giving a curly bracket. Even though this is a arrow function, we are giving it a curly bracket. So curly bracket signifies we can have multiple statements. So because we can have multiple statements, we need to justify. We need to specify uh, what are we returning. Okay, so here we are returning the evaluation of this condition, which can be either true or false. So whenever it is true, if the car, so this condition goes through each of the element inside the array, each of the car inside the car list. Wherever this condition is fulfilled, the fuel type is petrol. That is the element which is filtered out into the new array. Okay, moving on. So this is a very useful uh, array method when you need to filter out stuff. Basically, it can be used for search, like doing any small searches on the front end. Moving on, find. So again, this is similar to filter, but instead of returning an array, right, it just returns one single element. It doesn't return all the elements. Okay. So again, this is something which is not returning an array. It is just returning an element. So to give you an idea regarding this. So, dot find. I will put in the same condition that I put in for the petrol one. I will say return the fuel type. Okay. Because it's returning an array, we won't be able to see the list. But let's see if we have something in the console. I'll put it in the console. So as you can see, the first occurrence of the petrol car, that is what we are getting over here. We saw that there were multiple cars having petrol, but just the first occurrence. So Maruti Suzuki was, of course, the first element that we saw, and it has petrol. Again, we have Kia Seltos over here, which has a petrol fuel type, and Honda City also, which has a petrol fuel type. But we are just getting Maruti Suzuki because that's what is that's what find us. It just gives the first. Okay, moving on. Find index. A simple one, similar to what we have in find. But sometimes we don't exactly need the element. We get the index of that element. And that is useful in cases maybe where we want to remove an element based on a condition like we have this like a petrol condition is there, or anything where we the index is generally used. So I will say dot find index. Same condition I'll give. Fuel type. I won't write the longer version. I will write the shorter version so that we get a glimpse of what exactly. So mark we have the Maruti Suzuki, which is at 0 index. So ideally, we should get the value as 0. So that's what we are getting over here, the 0. And that is the first element inside the array. Okay. So yeah, this is how find index works. Okay, now coming to some, again, really useful method, which is not used very frequently by devs. So we need to look at this. So what it does is it tests whether at least one element in the array passes the provided function condition. Okay, so what I mean to say is, we want to check like if any of the cars is electric in nature. So without going through each of them or just counting each of them or doing those long processes, we can do just one simple thing. I'll say Indian cars dot sum dot car dot fuel type is equal to. So again, this just gives us true or false value, and that sometimes is enough for us to decide something. So if I just console log it, it will give us true value because one of the cars is electric in nature, and that this function is just electric in nature. Let's see if I want to check if it's any CNG cars out there in the list. So as you can see, there are none of the CNG cars. So it gives us a false. That way, it becomes really easy without doing any length operation or traversing the query. This gives us the values very easy. All right. Every which is very some sort of an opposite of some. So basically, what it does is it looks for some condition in all the elements in there. Okay. So let's say I want to check if all the cars are 2023 made. So what I'll do is dot every car. I'll say car dot year. That is the year when it was born. I'll say 2020. Again, this gives us a true or false only. So we need to console log it. What exactly are we getting over here? So as you can see, it is saying true. So that means all our cars have been launched in year 2023. So if we see over here 2023 for all the cars. Okay, so that's how every works. Even if one of the cars, let's say I change it to 2024, right? It changes to false. So that's how every works. It will check all the elements and see if the condition that we are passing is passed by each of the elements. Okay, so those were the search operations that we could do with the methods that we saw earlier. Moving on, transformation methods. So a really useful way to transform the shape of an array, that is map. So what map exactly does is, let's say your array is in a certain shape and you want to change the shape of it. Let's say it's an array of objects, but I want an array of numbers. So we are transforming the shape of that array. So as you can see right here, we have this array of car objects. I just want to have the array of, let's say, the car make, like whatever is the make of the car. That is Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, Tata. I just want that list. Okay. So how can we get that? We can get that by using the mapper. So here, what we need to return is the value that we are expecting inside the new array structure. Okay, so it will be just so again, this is does not manipulate the original array. It just gives the new array from the original. Okay, so it's a mix and console.log. So as you can see, we get an array. So here we don't see any object coming in. We just see the string values of each of the cars. All right. Again, if we still wanted an object, that is still possible. What we can do is instead of passing those values, we will pass in an object, something like this. Is a make. So now again, we have an array of objects where we have key as me, the value as whatever the value of the object is. All right. Really useful method. It is something which is used a lot in React. So yeah, people know this. Reduce. This is one of the complex methods which are there in arrays. Not a lot of devs understand how to use it and what exactly it does. There is one use case I will highlight over here. Basically, what it does is it can convert an array into a single entity. That entity can be a number, that entity can be an object, anything that you want. So converting an array to something else altogether. That is okay. So the definition for it is applies a function against an accumulator and each element to reduce it to a single value. All right. So let's look that in action. What I want to do is we have this cars over here. And if we see, we have this seating capacity. And what I want to do is I want to get the seating capacity, the sum of all the seating capacities of all the cars in the list. One way to do is to loop through it and have a variable defined and start adding to it. That's one way of doing it. Another way is by using the reduce function. And here you have two things. One is the accumulator and another is the element, the array element itself. Now, what is the accumulator? Accumulator is the initial value on which we keep on accumulating. Okay, so how does this work? I will say accumulator plus, sorry, is equal to accumulator plus car dot sequence capacity. So what will it do is it will take the first car setting capacity and add it to the accumulator. So we will define the initial value of accumulator as C. So it takes in the first car's capacity and adds it to it. Then we have the next car coming in. Now the accumulator's value is the previous car's capacity, and the next car's capacity is added to it. And that way, we keep on getting the total value of the seating capacity of all the cars that we have. All right. So let's do a console.log. Again, this may return any kind of value, can return number, object, but in our case, it will return a number. Okay. Which is a big mistake which we do, and that's what we saw with return, not return the So as you can see, we are getting value as 29. All right. So what is this 29? This is the total capacity. So if you will see over here, 5 plus 510 plus 515 plus 419 plus 524 plus 520. That's what is the total capacity here. Okay. Just to give you a glimpse of how that is working, right? I will just do a console log insight so that you can see what is the accumulated or value hit for each of the iterations. So as you see, it was initially start 0 over here, and then it started adding the values 5, 10, 15, 19, 24, finally. Really interesting method to work with. Uh, Again, this is just one use case I have found, but there are multiple use cases where you can use this. All right, sorting. Sorting is again something where we generally don't really know how to sort in the front end. We depend a lot on the back end, but yeah, we can sort sometimes. Like if it's a really not so complex operation, you can do it in the front end. So what you can do is you can cast or sort, and here if I just directly sort this and show cast, so as such, we don't see any change over here. Okay, so what sort again does is it sorts the original array, mutates the original array, and then it shows the array itself. We don't get any more. But here we don't see any kind of sorting happening because by itself sort doesn't work. It doesn't know how to sort it. It doesn't know what is the condition of sorting there. Okay. So what we can do is we can maybe sort it by alphabetical order. So what we'll do is we'll pass in a function. So star dot so as you see over here, we have written this function car dot make is greater than 0. Then we pass 1 or -1. So what exactly we are doing over here? So it goes to the make of the car, that is Honda City, Kia Seltos, and that's what is getting compared. So for each of the element that we have, right? So inherently JavaScript knows how ascending and descending works for the strings, the English alphabets, and it starts comparing each of the elements. So if it finds one element is let's say M and H here, there we are getting over here. Right? If it compares this to, and if H is something which is previously coming before M, then we get a value of 1 over here that you see. And that's how H is something which goes on top and M is something which comes down. And that it repeats for all the elements in the array. And that's how we get the sorted list of the class. But we have Maruti Suzuki coming in over here, Honda City coming over here. Only thing is we have Hyundai Creta, which is coming over here. Again, that is something because the H is not followed by uh, 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 better character over it. Check that. Yeah, Hyundai is there, Maruti Suzuki is there, Mahindra is there, Honda is there. Some sort of an issue for this. Let me cross check it with model once. Okay, now that's working. My bad was I hadn't given both the elements which were needed to be there. So that's why we're getting that issue. Let me fix it with this. Look into the side bit back on where I'm missing. But yeah, basically that's how sort works. Moving on, we have reverse also. So basically we can reverse the array without making individual iterations through. So whatever the cars that are listed over here, we just, if we want to reverse the list, all we have to do is reverse the array list. Again, this is something which reverses the original array itself. So we should see Honda City coming on top and Maruti Suzuki going at the bottom. Simple enough. And again, this mutates the original array. So we need to make sure when we are using reverse, we, we are aware of it. Now comes the for each. For each is something which is used a lot whenever we are working with arrays. So not something which we are unaware of, but just to give you uh, uh, a glimpse of how it works. Basically, we can go through each of the elements in the array and maybe we want to modify it. Maybe we want to just console log the value, or maybe we want some other side effect to happen, right? So that's where for each comes in. The simplest of thing to do is, I would say, console log each of the cars. So we have the list coming in the console over here instead of here. So basically, that's a side effect we can do in for each. But let's say I want to, let's say, manipulate each of the elements which are there. So what I'll do is, let's say, I'm getting the car, and for each of the car, I want to change the make year to, let's say, 2020. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll show all the cars, check if all the cars yourself changed or not. So as you can see, all the cars yourself changed from 2023 to 2020. And we can do some sort of complex operation also. Let's say if uh, let's say make also a few like I would say uh, change it to non-existent, something like. So if you can see wherever there was petrol, there's no non-existent, but other fuel types are still intact. So we are diesel, we are electric, only the petrol fuel types are non-existent. Good way to literate, go through the each of the array and modify it. Just make sure whenever we are using for each, we do not give the value of for each to another array because it's manipulating the original array itself. So if we do uh, console log of the new array that we have that we are getting, we'll see that it is giving us undefined. Why? Because for each is something which doesn't return anything, and that's where a lot of mistakes. So whenever we are passing in an function to for each, it will it will do modifications or it will do side effects on the from the original array or on the original array, and it won't return us a new array. That's something that needs to be. And the last one is for off. So for off is a new way of iterating through an array. Simple enough. This is just like for and for loop, but just it gives us the element itself instead of writing the index or iterating through the variable I plus plus, all those things. So it gives us the element itself. So as you can see, we get all the elements. And the same thing that we did in for each can go down to it even in the for loop over here. Simple enough and makes working with for loop much more easy. All right, moving on quickly to object methods. We don't have much methods over here. We just have these 5 methods, and they are helpful in cases where we just want to just look into the object. So what I have done over here is I have created one object called Indian car, and I have the same kind of properties that we saw earlier. All right. So what I'll do is what does the keys do? It returns an array of the object's property names. So basically it shows us the keys. So what I'll do is say object keys. Okay. So this is something which returns an array. What does it return an array? Let's see that. We'll log it into the console. Uh, uh, so yeah. So we are getting each of the properties of this object in form of an array. So you can see all the properties are available over here in form of an array. So this is useful when we want to, let's say we need to create a table and these are the keys that we need to put in the table. So this is one of the use case of scenarios where we can use objects. Again, why do we need to define object.keys and why can't we define it on Indian car itself? Because it's not what do you say? an intrinsic property of Indian car itself. It's something which is made available from the object. Same comes with values instead of keys, we get the values. And I will just console log it. So whatever the values that you are seeing over here, Toyota, Vista 2023 diesel manual, all those values are coming over here in the form of an array. Okay, this is useful for populating media table or when we have this kind of, when we just have the object coming. So that way, this is something which is really useful. You don't need to know what are the keys of that object. All right. So we got the keys and we got the values, but let's say if we want like both of them in an array fashion. So what we can do is we can say object dot entries. We will pass in the same object and we will console log for that. So now we are getting both of that, but in form of an array. Again, it's not a simple array. We have an array inside an array. We have the first element of the array as the key and the second element as the value. So this is something which can be useful, let's say, if I want to do for each on this. So as you can see over here, we get both of the values, key and value pairs over here. And that's how like we can separately print it out. Let's say key is key and same thing for value. So key, value. That's how we are getting it. We are logging each of the properties over here. It's very useful when we want to get both the things, key and value, in sort of which can be iterated upon. Okay, quickly going through these two properties. These properties are uh, not used a lot, but helpful when we have data in a particular fashion. So this is from entries is just the opposite of entries. So let's say I have data in a fashion like this. We have make and then and the same way if I have here that is 1993. All right. From this you can create an object like object from entries. So again, this is a key value pairs which are there in the array that we got in entries. So this is what it does. It is opposite of what entries does. It will create an object from this kind of data. So we console.log it. So we are getting an object make and again if you don't want this to be in strings, that is also perfectly fine. We are getting it as a number over here. All right, just a couple of minutes more for the final one, assign. So sometimes what we want is we want to copy some items of an original object with some minor changes. There are ways to do it using destructuring, but like if we want to make it explicit, what we can do is let's say I create a new car, okay, and I give it a make of Toyota. Instead of Toyota, let's try give it Honda. Let's say year as 1995. Okay, and I want to call the copy all the values, but these two. Okay, so how do we do it in the new car? So we'll say object dot assign. The target is the new car. The source is the original one that we have over here. That's the Indian car. And then let's see what is happening. So basically, it is modifying the new car over here. So copies the value of all the enumerables and properties from another to the source of. So make is Honda and year is 1995. So what it does is instead of just leaving this, it is adding up the the values from the original object to the new object. So it will just copy it and not look into what we have already over here. So a better way of what I told previously to do would be to say we will destructure it, which is one of the ways of doing it. And get that to console.log. This as well. So as you can see, now we have all the properties which are there over here, but now only the two things that we wanted to change one time in 1993. That's available over here. So this is how the destructuring works, and that's what the objective was. The assign value copies all the values. It doesn't look for the original values. All right. Okay. That's it from my side. Okay. Any questions?
Hi guys, thank you for watching. I had an amazing time learning all the new things here at Specbee's TECHX. And if you did too, do let us know in the comments below. Keep following Specbee for the latest trends in technology. See you in the next one.